Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Keys to the Capstone podcast series, From Topic to Paper. I'm your host, Greg, and we will be talking about all the things you need to know to get the most from your library. Hello and welcome, everyone. Joining me in studio today is Gorgas Information Instructional Librarian, Mark Robinson.
Hi, thank you for having me.
And one of the first things we're doing is we're having librarians talk about the jobs they do, who they are, what they do here at the library, so that students become more familiar with the librarians available to them. So what kind of librarian are you?
I'm an Information and Instructional Services Librarian.
And what exactly do you do in that capacity?
My primary responsibility is as an instructor. Professors invite me to the classroom to demonstrate to students how to use library databases, library catalogs, citation tools, all the various elements of the research process.
So you're the kind of librarian that students will have probably the most face-to-face interaction with.
Yes.
And today we are going to be teaching on this podcast. We're going to be teaching students the differences between an article and a book. And since everyone listening to this podcast is going to have to do either a paper or a project at some point, they're going to need to find sources. And some of those sources are going to be articles, and some of those sources are going to be books. And we're going to talk about the key differences. So Mark, what are the key differences between books and articles?
Well, there are several. The first worth mentioning is the obvious one, length. An article is almost always going to be shorter than a book. The next is level of specificity. Articles are shorter because they're not dealing with so much information as a book. Articles get down to the nitty-gritty of a specific research question. They're focused on that specific research question and the evidence that goes with it. A book is longer, more comprehensive, will kind of approach in broad strokes some of the levels, some of the information that an article would get at.
So a book is broader and more general, and an article is more specific.
Correct.
What about authority between the two kinds of sources? Is one more authoritative than the other?
Not necessarily. Scholarly articles and books are both written by scholars, have gone through a rigorous editing and review process before they're published. The key difference between the two, however, is currency. An article documents current research, things that scholars are working on at the moment. Thus, they might be more authoritative than a book, which might be more comprehensive, covering old research. Nothing new necessarily has to happen for a book to come out.
So let's say I'm a student, and I'm starting my project, and I have to find these sources, and I come across both articles and books. Do you have any tips or tricks, or how should I know when to use one or the other?
Well, when you're just getting started with your research, I would recommend looking at a book first. A book's going to provide comprehensive background information, maybe present different sides of an issue, sub-issues within the topic that maybe you didn't even know existed. Once you kind of formulate your research question a little more precisely, then I would delve into the articles, find out what literature specifically has been published on that question.
Well, thank you very much, Mark, for all the helpful advice, and thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Well, that's all for this episode of the Keys to the Capstone podcast series. Thank you for joining us, and don't forget, when in doubt, ask a librarian.